Hello, everyone. How are we all going? Look, the week has gone so quickly. It really has. So, I hope you're all well. And today, I'd like to explore the difference between submitting to God and surrendering to God, and how it shapes our daily lives and influences the spirit realm. So I want to bring some clarification to this, but also want to show you how it works in the spirit, because it certainly is a very powerful tool in the spirit when you understand the difference between submitting and surrendering. So submission and surrendering are basically siblings, but they're not twins, in the sense that submission aligns our choices with God's commands, right? We surrender, we're surrendering trust the outcome in God's care. So I hear it a lot. A lot of people go, yeah, but I've submitted to God. And they're missing a key element, because we can submit to God, but we're not necessarily fully surrendering. So when we submit, and this is one of the things, when we come into a relationship with God, we are submitting our lives. In other words, we are saying, God, my free will is, coming under your precepts. In other words, we step into his guidelines or commandments. We go into, well, I won't steal and I won't commit murder. And, we come into the core values of who God is and his principles. And this is where often what happens is people stay in submission, but they never fully transition into a surrendering state. So they'll go to church every Sunday, they'll attend what that is required of them without fully understanding the spiritual significance and the power of surrender. So many believers practice obedience, yet they carry anxiety, resentment, or spiritual exhaustion, because when you're in a state of surrender, you are often walking in your own strength, and you're in your capabilities and abilities, and you're trying to fit them in the audiences of God. So within his guidelines and his commandments, right? So the two words really have two states of position or posturing, and defining submission and surrender. In other words, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. But then it goes into not my will, but your will. Submission places our will under God's revealed will. It's active. Like I said, it's the 10 Commandments. It's obedience based in reverence, in acknowledging that, God is the creator. He is your author and perfecter. Whereas surrendering is yielding control of outcomes to God. Now, this is really key. It's trustful release based in the love, but based in the relationship of who God is. So for me personally, there are times when I'm holding things in the spirit or I have concerns. I'm seeing things that are happening in people's lives, and I'm pondering, okay, God, how do I, what do I need to do here? How can I help? Because we're always looking for God's heart in every situation. But the key then, often he'll say to me, I want you to surrender. Surrender what you think and feel, and surrender it to me. So the Pharisees could submit externally without surrendering internally, and that's in Matthew 23:23. But Jesus is asking us to do both. Do what he asks, but also trust in who he is. So I've seen many times, Christians will, oh, God works all things together for good, but they're misunderstanding their part in that positioning. It's about surrendering what you feel should happen, the results you want to see. I have friends going through some really, horrific things, and they're going, yeah, we've been told that person's going to have a car accident. And I'm like, whoa, that is not God's heart. That is definitely not God's heart. God's heart is for reconciliation. He's always, doesn't matter who you are or where you're at, he is always looking to bring you into a deeper relationship with him. So submission is steering within God's lane. Surrendering is moving your hand from the steering wheel. In other words, you're letting God be in control. And lots of people have a struggle with that. They go, yeah, God, you do what you need to do, your will, but hang on a minute, I'm steering which way I'm going because I want it to look like this. We all do it. The key is to pull yourself up and go, okay, God, I don't know what I'm doing here, and I will surrender what I think should happen. Now, in the spirit, when you pray, I surrender, you'll feel a shift because you step out of your works and your ideas of how things work. And I often find that it gets me out of the way for then God to do what he fully wants to do and how he wants to do it. The best prayers that I have ever prayed is, God, not my will, but yours. Sometimes I'll go, God, I don't know what I need, but you know what I need better than what I do. And I see him all the time doing amazing things for me because I'm letting him do what he wants to release on my life and causing me to follow the steps that he has for me. That's why I can sit here and say the last 45 years of my life have been full of adventure, awe, and wonder because God has been the captain at the helm. That doesn't mean that I have no thoughts or have no brain capacity. I don't follow blindly. I don't, just go, oh, yeah, I'm not off with the fairies living in La La Land going, yeah, God's got it. Ah, because that's not how God operates either. That is living in La La Land. That is not being balanced. And God calls us to be balanced. So a heart of surrender is we trust God. We love God. Scripture that says, be still and know that I am God. In other words, when we surrender, we're releasing God to be God in our life. We are trusting his character. We are trusting his promises to be fulfilled. And when we walk in that, perfect love casts out all fear. So when you know that God is fully for you and with you in every situation, he never steps out of it. He never goes, oh, you've gone the wrong way, I'm not coming with you. That is not who God is. He is always with us. Trust is the surrender, is faith applied to the control. We entrust our future to the one who sees the end and the beginning. That's in Isaiah 46:10. Love, when we release control, not from resignation, but from relationship, then we can trust God to be graciously giving us what we truly need. The benefits is that our heart is always at rest. There's a stillness and a quietness in the trust that we have in God, and it's your strength. I see the fruit of surrender is peace and freedom and joy, where scripture says, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. The peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds. So when we're in peace, you know, we are not anxious. We stop griping for outcomes. We bring prayers of thanksgiving because we know that God's got it. We know that he's working on our behalf. Now, some answers come really quickly and some take a process and they take time. But if you trust in God's timing, then you will stay in peace. Surrender brings a sense of calm in uncertainty and liberty from compulsion. In other words, if you stay in surrender, you are always in a place of peace, no matter what comes at you. It's like, and I've shared many of my situations and circumstances where, you know, God, if I didn't have that anchor in God, I would have, you know, gone, what the heck? But I've always stepped back into him, surrendering my feelings, my emotions, my soul realm. Surrender it to God, because then you'll stay in the spirit. When you stay in the spirit, you stay in governance. And when you're in governance, you are above all things and not beneath. And this is where we see, you know, fruits of people that they have submitted to God, but they are in anxiety. They are in stress. They are in fear. And they pray from, I hope God will do something for me. I hope God will come through. When we come to surrender, we're surrendering to the very nature and the principles of the Spirit of who and what God is. And it's simple. It's a simple transition of going, hang on, I'm in fear. Let me step back into peace. I have anxiety right now. Why am I anxious? What's going on for me? You know, and again, I've heard people go, oh my gosh, I've lived my life according to what God has asked me, but I don't see the fruit of his promises. because there's another gentle little step of surrendering. When we surrender, we release what our thoughts are as to the outcome. Or also, it's like we surrender how we think God should move on our behalf. In other words, well, I want this is the end result. And I want God to do this, and I want him to do that, and I want it to look like this. And God's going, whoa, that's not how I want to move right now. That's not how I want to work right now. So when we surrender our thoughts, our imagination to the Lordship of God, there's a huge shift. And it's a prayer, it's a tool that I've shared with you guys. It's a spiritual tool. You can take hold and captive your own thoughts and your own imagination. And it's a surrendering, it's a principle of surrendering to the Spirit of God to then give you the mind of Christ, to think the way that God thinks, to get his heart on the situation and circumstances. And in that, there are times where there is action required. Absolutely. We need to get past where some of the teaching is that, well, I'll just sit here and God will do everything. It's a partnership. It's a relationship. It's easier for God to move you when you are moving. Have you ever tried to push a car that's stationary? It's much harder to get, momentum of movement. It is easier for God to steer us when we are in a movement, whether we're going, okay, God, I think I'm going to go this way, or this is what I'm going to do for the day. And then you'll go, yeah, but let's just take a side step and let's go over here for a minute, because there's something that I want you to, there's someone that I want you to meet, or there's something that I want to bring to you. And and this is the best place to practice this, guys, is at a shopping center. It's like, okay, God, I really need a new jacket. So this is my budget. Help me find this certain jacket. And I'll just meander through the shops. And then all of a sudden, God will go, oh, I want you to go to this particular shop. And I'll go, okay. And then I'll walk in and there's the exact jacket for even less than the budget that I had for it. It's a really, I know it sounds silly, but it's a really good place to learn to hear God in the simplest things. Like even, I know this sounds silly, guys, but I go, God, where's the best place in this shopping center that I don't know to have a good cup of coffee? And he'll, I walk up to a coffee shop and he goes, nah, not there. Okay, next one. I want to impress on you how God wants to be so intricate and involved in your life, from the littlest things to the big things. But if you grow in the little things, you will see your growth in the big things as well. We don't make a child get up and run 10 kilometers when they can't even take their first step. God is exactly the same. He gently guides you, step by step, level by level, precept by precept, into the growth of where he is bringing you to. There are, in this stage of my life, I guess, finally being able to put the mechanics, so to speak, and the words to things that I have been doing as I've been led by the Spirit. And people will look at me and go, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, and it's wonderful because I've learned that the things in the Spirit often don't have words because it's not of this realm. It's not of this dimension. And so I'm like, I'm pushing into God to give me the words so that I can help others comprehend the mechanics of it, because this brings understanding. And that the word says he wants you to have understanding. This is where we don't walk around blindly going, oh yeah, God's doing something, but I don't know what it is. It's up to us to ask him. Again, remember the questions that you need to ask. There's a difference between willpower to willingness. Submission, it's really interesting. Submission is, we're trying to deal with our shortcomings. We're trying to deal with our, where we miss it. Now, for some of you, it'll be the word sin. But the word sin actually means where we miss it. And I don't like using that word because God doesn't see us as sinners. He sees us complete and whole. He sees us at the end as we are in the Spirit, which is our process on the earth, is to come into the fullness of who we are in our spiritual being. We are not, human bodies trying to have a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings that are inhabited in a physical body. That's why when we come in a true alignment, your spirit man is in the seat of authority. It is your spirit man that leads you, that guides you through your life. And in your emotions and your heart and your will are submitted or surrendered to the Spirit, your spiritual being, which is in already right communion and connection with God. We already have access to all that God is, all that God was, and all that God will be. We have limitless access. We are taught that we have limitations, but we do not. When we are free from the things of this world, we can flow in the Spirit. Again, 24/7, 7 days a week. It's not reliant on your circumstances. It's not reliant on how you feel today. It's not reliant on what people think of you. It is purely reliant on who God is. So when we surrender, we are releasing the things that are trying to hold us down. We're coming out, we're even changing dimensions when we surrender, because we're coming out from under the things of this world, the energies, the entities, the principalities, the powers of this world, and we are seated above it. When we surrender, we actually tap into the true authority that we have been given, because we are surrendering to God's authority who then releases his authority out and through us onto the earth, into your life, into other people's lives. And we talked about that last week. It's like moving with God always has the greatest impact. It brings the greatest transformation. It brings the greatest breakthrough for people's lives. You know, some people go, oh, Dot, I want you to do this and this. And I just go, yeah, hang on a minute. Go, oh, I want a couple of days to sit in the Spirit because I want to bring God's best for you. I could just sit there and go, oh, yeah, maybe this, or maybe this is what's happening, or maybe we need to deal with that. But I want that person to get the full impact and encounter that God has for them. So we bring wisdom. We bring insight. We bring the fullness of his presence into the situations that God's asking you to step into. It's funny, surrender is also, it's full of grace. We have the grace to be obedient to what God is asking us. You know, we talk about God's grace. Oh, yeah, God's grace is over this and over that. But it's there when we surrender. You know, it says to walk by the Spirit, and then you will not gratify the desires of your flesh. And again, this is where we go from willpower to willingness. We all have a strength of fulfilling our own will, right? Sometimes it can come from self-preservation. It can come from, no, I'm right and you're wrong. But even in that, we can be right, but be very, very wrong because of the way that we have applied it or how we have walked in it. If we're not coming from love, which when we're surrendered, you stay in love, you stay in grace, because your trust is completely in God's hand and in who he is. And this is where we, we release transformation. We bring transfiguration, not only to our own life, but into the life of others. This is where we give them grace, where we see them with God's heart, that, wow, they've got a way to go. And that's okay, because guess who's in control of their life? God is. So we let him do the work. There are times when we have to go, God, you're working here, and let him do what he needs to do. And this is the key when we surrender. We're releasing God's hand to work. We're releasing the Spirit to move. We can get in the way. And that's why a simple step of surrendering releases us and releases God to do what he needs to do. Surrender holds contentment and boldness together. When you're surrendered to God and he asks you to do something that's out of the box, you can do it with knowing, with a peace, but also a boldness, a fearlessness. You know, I went to Africa on a Facebook invitation. Now, in the natural, you would be going, what? But I knew that God told me to follow it through. Now, did I have moments on that trip that I was like, oh my goodness, like, what am I doing? Especially when you're a blonde and you're in the middle of Africa and everyone's looking at you, and I don't even know the people that have to meet me at the airport. And I'm going, God, what if they're not there? What am I going to do? Like, fear gripped me for a couple of minutes. And then I was like, no, you've asked me to do this. So you are with me in it. And it was an incredible 2 weeks of God moving in incredible ways. The stories, the miracles that I saw, the way God's, stepped in to protect a pastor who was doing the right thing that was being attacked. And I was able to expose what was going on. And he could put a stop to it because it was detrimental to the hearts and lives of the people. So, but I was very grateful to come home. When I came home, let me tell you, I was even sitting in Dubai at the wrong plane, because it's Dubai. If you've ever been there, it's a crazy airport. It's so big, it's overwhelming. And I'm sitting at the gate that I was told to sit at, and I'm thinking, where is everybody? And I'm sitting there, God, I'm getting a bit concerned because there's not many people here, and I'm not seeing very many, Australians either. And all of a sudden, this couple came up to me that were Australian, and they said, "Oh, we're heading back to Brisbane." I said, "Yeah, I am too." And they go, "Well, you're at the wrong gate." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they said, "They've changed the gate." I had to run across the airport. These people accompanied me, and because I was like, God, something's not right. I could feel it. They accompanied me to the gate, and you know what? They were never on the plane. I went looking for them, and I realized, God, you sent angels to make sure I got onto the right plane and the right platform. Don't underestimate, when your hearts are surrendered, the things that God will do and how he will protect you. I just got on that plane. I just made it in time. And I was so grateful. And I was like, where are they? I must thank them. And they were not on that plane. They didn't even get off the plane. They were nowhere to be found. This is how God works on our behalf. Your life, your daily routine or aspect of your life can be filled with the awe and wonder of God. And that is not the first time. But the conversation, if I had sat there and gone, oh, yeah, God's got it, la, 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 la. If I don't interact and have these conversations with God, you will miss what he's trying to say to you. And please, I feel to iterate this. God wants to talk to you. He wants to engage in your life. He wants to be part of it. Please, if your thinking is, God's only in the important things or God's only in the big things, you will miss the absolute awe and wonder of the relationship you can have with him. And you are letting religious programming tell you the half-truth of the relationship that you can have with God. When we surrender and purpose, open hands for God's call, delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. He put the desire in your heart in the first place. Now, does that mean that you don't sometimes wrestle with what's in your heart? it's like, God, I feel that you're asking me to go the next level, in the sense of you want me, and I'll use myself as an example, is that, I feel that God's asking me to become more vocal. In other words, to be a louder voice in the world today. And I'm going, yeah, but I'm just happy. I'm happy doing this beautiful Zoom every week. I really enjoy it. And like, let's just stay here. And in my heart, God's going, I can feel the pull in my heart, guys. I've got to be honest. I feel it. And I go, oh, no, it's okay, God. He's going, no, it's time for you to be a louder voice. Now, I don't have any ego or agenda to become a mega voice. Can I say this? I'm happy doing what I'm doing. And yes, I've run workshops and I've, spoken in front of thousands of people, but I'm happy. And God's going, I can feel him pulling, like I can feel it. And I'm like, okay, God, all right. Well, and then my prayer is, God, well, I'll do it. You need to open the doors. Okay, that is surrendering. Until I say, God, I will do what you're asking me, but now you need to help me step through these doors, changes the whole dynamics again. And the question that I've got to ask myself, which I am, is why am I hesitant? What is in me that's stopping me from wanting to do this 200%? Is there a lie that I'm listening to? Is there is there something in my childhood that's making me feel like I'm not good enough, or, why, someone else might do it better? Like, you've got to ask yourself those questions and surrender those fears, surrender those lies so God can change it. Because the barriers to our surrender is often we want to be in control, we're afraid, or we have a wrong perspective of God. Some people are afraid of God in that they feel, because we've been taught that God's an angry God, and we have spoken about this many times, but some people believe that if I step out and do something and I do it wrong, God's going to punish me. I hear it. People say it all the time. And I'm listening to what they're saying. I'm going, wow, let's just move that out of the way, shall we? Someone shared with me, oh, I'm sick all the time because God's punishing me because of some of the choices that I've made in my life. I just like, whoa, that is not who God is. God is always looking to bring breakthrough, to bring healings, to build your confidence, to build the relationship that you can have with him. So let's break down these words in some of the decision-making lenses that we sometimes question. So when we come into submission, we anchor it in scripture. We anchor it in, the truth that we know and the commandments. Okay. When we come into surrender, the question is, and this is a really good one, what outcome am I clinging onto that I feel should happen, that I need to entrust God with? If we anchor ourselves in God's goodness, his wisdom, his sovereignty, his patience, and his faithfulness, Surrender is easy. It's other words, submit the choice and surrender the consequences. Effects on your spiritual life, on identity. Submission clarifies who you are under God's reign, strengthens an integrity. Surrender frees you from identities built on control, success, or other people's approval. Our emotions. Submission reduces guilt and inner conflict and builds moral confidence. Surrender lowers anxiety and increases peace and resilience to circumstances. Our habits and our character. Submission forms discipline, courage, perseverance, and aligns actions with what we believe. Surrender cultivates humility, flexibility, gratitude, and softens our hearts. One of the biggest things that God's had to teach me is how to be flexible, how to be fluid in Him, how to move when He tells me to move instead of going, hang on a minute, you told me to go this way and now all of a sudden we're going this way. It's like, okay, we're moving this way. Oh, okay, we're going over here now. Okay, what's over here that's going to be fun? That's what surrender is. Submission in prayer is teach me and command me. Our petitions are shaped by obedience, but surrender is have your way. It is trust and willingness to accept different answers. On discernment, submission filters options through revealed principles. Surrender keeps us from forcing doors open and receptive to God's redirection. Sometimes when we go through setbacks, submission keeps you from retaliating or compromising when pressured. Surrender helps you endure without bitterness and transforms waiting into great things. They're just some of the things that happens when we truly surrender. And it is very different to submission, but the two go together. We start with submitting ourselves to God. When you first encounter God, you're submitting your life. You can be submitting your heart. You can, we go through that. But then the next spiritual level is that we are surrendering. We are surrendering to God's perfect will for our life. We're trusting Him in that. And we have to entrust our family to that as well. Now, I see family members that make choices and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that is not what I would be doing. But that's part of their journey and their growth. And we need to uphold them without hindering. In other words, surrender. I've surrendered my children so many times into the hands of God. Your partner, surrender to God, to bring them into a place of, revelation and encounter. The thing that I see the most that's happening in the things that are happening in the world is people are not encountering God. They are talking about him. And a lot of it is head knowledge. Everyone's looking for head knowledge instead of heart revelation. Because when we have an encounter with God, it is life-changing. It is transformational. It is taking us from one realm into another. It's dimensional. And it's spiritual. It's when your spirit becomes fully awake and alive to the one that created it. And that is God himself. I'm going to stop there. So if there's any questions, please feel free. I hope that clarified that really well for you, the difference and the spiritual aspect that it is, because surrendering is a tool. It is definitely a spiritual principle. You know, so when I get, God, I don't know what's going on, it's like, I'm going to surrender it. No questions.
No, not really a question, but what you were talking about, Dottie, is pretty much summarizing the process, at least I myself have been experiencing for several months now. Growing both areas, the knowledge of the submission, and but also the faith of surrender. And it's sometimes going 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or maybe even 2 steps back, but keeps going forward. It's building. It's just like exercising a muscle.
Does this also have repetition or so? Because we heard this also, you have to submit and petition or something, or is this something different?
No, it's different, because when we come into relationship with God or acknowledge that God is God, the creator of the universe, the creator of you and me, we already come into that submission. We're coming under, you know, his principles, his core values. We're coming under, you know, spiritual principles as well. Submission is all about the heart. Surrender is all about the heart. Because we can be talking God's talk and we can be quoting scriptures like the Pharisees did, but they were never surrendered to the heart and will of God. They could quote scriptures, and I know lots of people that can quote scriptures, but there's a hardness about them. There is this, it's the law. There is no surrender. When there is a surrender, it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of relationship. And the religion will tell you you have to submit. You have to submit to what we tell you to do and the formulas that we're telling you you have to follow. But surrender is relational. It's relational with God. It's personable. It's interactive. It's got freedom in it. It's got peace in it. It's got, you know, love wrapped in it. And because love is wrapped in surrender, it casts out all fear. So whenever God asks me to do something, there's no fear in it, because I fully trust him with my life. I fully trust him with my heart. I fully trust him with my spirit. So, submission is still connected with works orientation. And there's, you know, well, if I submit to God, then God will do this for me. And same with petitioning. It's like petitioning can border on, I'm begging God to do some things, or I'll do this so God will do that. That's not surrendering. Surrendering is this full trust. And that's why, again, it's so important that you understand who the character of God is, what the principles of the spirit realm are, and who you are to him. If you come from the mindset that I'm just here to fill a pew and be here every Sunday and put money in the tithing bucket, you are not. You're in submission, but you are not in surrender to God's heart and will for you. You are doing what the Pharisees and the Sadducees are telling you to do. And there is a transition. There is, because when you first come into your encounter with God, for some people, it's, okay, what do I do? What does the Bible tell me I have to do? And they stay in the works mentality, but they never transition into the surrender of that relationship and the heart and the spirit. Not everyone that can quote scriptures are moving in the spirit. They are not coming from the heart of God. They are just quoting scriptures that often condemn and bring judgment and condemnation. Surrender is a completely different aspect. It's a different position when it comes to relationship. And we surrender to God's authority, therefore we have authority. There's an exchange when we surrender. It's far deeper than when I submit to God and I'll do what he tells him, whether I like it or not. Whereas the surrender comes from, I want to do what the Spirit is asking me. I delight in doing what God is asking me to do. So therefore, joy. This is where the fruits of the Spirit come in, where there's joy, there's love, there's abundance, there's prosperity, there's health, there's wellness. Part of the breaking out of coming into surrendering and coming out of submitting is that, well, you know, God's testing me. Oh, God's making me sick so that I learn lessons. No, that's not who he is. Surrender is very simple. It's a giving over of your heart. It's a giving over of control. It's a giving over of what you think should happen. And it's complete trust. I trust God with every aspect of my life. That's what true surrender is. Submission is, I'll give God little bits, but I'll hang on to certain parts. And that's a growth area. You know, when I first encountered God and it changed my life, I was like, okay, what do we do now? What do I have to do now? And I'm looking to people to tell me, okay, we get up at 5 a.m. and we pray. Okay, I'm there at 10 to 5. What are we praying? I don't know. We're just waiting. What are we waiting for? I don't know. Something. And it became hit and miss. And I'm going, God, I was so hungry for more of God. God, you got to give me more. I tell you, I was so hungry for everything of the Spirit. Then I pursued God relentlessly because I wanted everything that he has for me, but I wanted it now. God's going, yeah, it doesn't work like that. I'm going, I want it now. I used to pray, God, give me patience and give it to me now. And he goes, can I just say, guys, don't ever pray that prayer, because he will give you patience, but it never comes quickly. And I'll be going, okay, I'm learning patience. Oh my gosh. Now I have patience like no tomorrow. I am so patient. But boy, did I have to learn that, because I was a go-getter. I'm an action woman. You know, right, let's go. So when God tells me to do something, he knows he has to give me the right time, because the minute he says it, I'm there. My kids see it. They go, okay, we're getting in the car. I'm already in the car. They're still picking up their bag, getting their shoes on. I'm in the car. I've got the car going, because that's who I am. That's how God created me. If you're like, right, we're leaving. Yep, I'm already out the door down the street. It's like, okay, we've finished our coffee. Yep, I've finished mine. I'm already out the coffee shop. I have to go, Dot. It's okay. Slow down. I got to wait for everybody else because it's polite. So when I find people that move like me, woohoo, I'm at a party, baby, because let's go. We move with God. We have our being. All that we are, all that we am, all that we will be, all of our being is in God. There is nothing outside of God that will satisfy you. There is nothing outside of God that will fulfill you, that will bring the love and the peace that he has for you. Now, when you come into that fullness, everything outside of it, the relationships that you have in this world are richer, because you're not got expectations on them. You're not looking for them to fulfill a need in your life, unless it's IT or AI, when you need that sort of help. That needs filling. You are full. Your cup is running over. I live from a place where my cup is continuously overflowing. There is a difference. Let me throw this scripture in where it talks about the 10 virgins, the ones that had oil and the ones that ran out. It's not physical oil. It's talking about that presence and that continual, connection with God, that the wick never burns and the oil is always flowing. You need to think about that for a minute. Where the wick never burns and the oil is flowing. In other words, you never experience burnout, because your source of life, energy, and love comes from God, and it's ever flowing. When people go, oh, I'm so tired. Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired. I just go, oh my gosh. There is no reason to feel tired when you're walking in the Spirit. If those words are coming out of your mouth, then go, hang on a minute. What am I doing in my strength? because we can tap into never-ending life, never-ending refreshing, renewing, never-ending health. It flows continually. That's what the river of life is. But there is a surrendering to flowing in the river. It's like, are you still hanging on to the bank? Are you still hanging on, you know, are you got your feet in, but not the rest of you? Like, how far do we go? How surrendered are we? Where we just jump in and let God. That's full surrender. Jump in and trust God. And any areas that you struggle with, He will reveal to you. And not with a hammer, but with absolute love, where He goes, let's just get rid of that, shall we? Because you don't need that lie anymore. You don't need that false foundation or that religious spell or the things of this world that have told you what you can and can't be. I'm a believer of bringing the best of what God has given me to work with and making it the best that I can make it be. Whether it's physical, whether it's emotional, whether it's spiritual, whether it's in relationships. Tapping into God, walking with God and the Spirit is the only way to live this life. And the more of us that grab the truth of how to walk in Him, the sooner we can create a new heaven and a new earth. Because that's what we're here to do. And sometimes we got to get past ourselves and step into the bigger picture. I do not have a problem stepping out of my comfort zone to let God meet me in it. Because when He meets me in it, He does amazing things. In other words, I can't do this in my own strength, God, but I'll do this with you. I used to build houses purely under the direction of God's guidance. There are so many things I've stepped out and done that I have had no idea how to do in the natural, but God has met me in it. When I reflect, I go, wow, God, it's been a real adventure. I wouldn't want to live it any other way. Because I'm always stretching myself and putting myself in a place where God meets me in it, because He'll never leave me or forsake me. Now, there's wisdom that you have to apply to that. Can I just say that? I've seen many people start a business and then God is not in it with them because they didn't ask God whether that's what they should do. I'm talking about stepping out when God asks you to do something. Regardless of your own fears or insecurities, He meets you in it. Be bold. Be courageous. Be fearless. You have permission to be all that God has created you to be. Some of us just need to take that permission and run with it. Because the world won't give it to you, but God has given it to you. And we'll stop there for today. Thanks, everybody. Lovely to see some new faces. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, we'll see you next, whatever day it is in your life.
Thank you, Dottie.
Thank you, beautiful.
Good.
Bye.
Thursday evening, Dottie. Thank you, sweetie.
Oh, thanks, Bradley. See you, darling.
Thank you, Dottie. Thank
Yeah.
you, everyone.
Friday morning.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you
Bye,
so much.
Beth. Bye, Leanna. She was on there earlier.
Bye. Thank
Mm.
you.
Bye.
Thanks, Sophie. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Great.